What is cryptozoology? Crypto deriving from the Greek word kryptos, meaning hidden, zoo from zoon, meaning animal, and ology, coming from logia, I'm not really sure how you pronounce that one, but it means to study. Put that all together, and you get the study of hidden animals. Now, the term hidden animals may come off as a broad definition. When you think of a hidden animal, the first thought that might come to mind is some kind of camouflaging animal, like a chameleon or an octopus. However, this is not what is being studied. Instead, cryptozoology studies animals as very existence is debated, whether it exists in secret, living under our noses, or rather they did exist and are extinct now. The thylacine is the subject of such a debate. It is documented and even photographed, but thought to be extinct since 1936. However, there are still reported sightings of these creatures, which begs the question, does it exist or not? Other hidden animals are debated if they are real, because most evidence of their existence comes from hearsay. Think of tales of the Kraken from old-time sailors. Most had blown off their tails of a large tentacled creature attacking their vessel as a tall tale to sound heroic. Flash forward a few hundred years, and we have discovered species such as the giant squid, which certainly seems like a valid candidate for the description of said Kraken. Chalk it up to either hyperbole or an actual case of a raging squid attacking a boat, and you have your Kraken. From here on out, I'm going to be referring to these hidden animals as cryptids, as that is the term they use in the field of cryptozoology. Now, many of you may be drawn to this video because of cryptids that are hot in pop culture. That is also why I'm making this video, because of the fascination of these creatures, but not all the animals that fall under this classification are as intriguing as tales such as the Wendigo, or the Mothman, the Goatman, or any of those things. Most of these supernatural type cryptids are not what are studied under the pseudoscience of cryptozoology. You may hear me call it a pseudoscience, but that is what most refer to it as, so I will also call it that for now. The supernatural element of some of these popular creatures is what fascinates most people, but to others, it's the mystery or the intrigue that a creature could go unnoticed, hidden to the eyes of man. So for the rest of this video, I'd like to divide it up into sections, discussing the subcategories of cryptozoology. A section devoted to the supernatural ones, a section for tall tales that in retrospect can be explained with the knowledge we have now, and finally a section for the cryptids that are the most plausible. And by plausible, I mean they sound legit, they're possible, and they're just hidden under our noses, and could be around to this day. Because to me, that last section is one of the most intriguing and something I'd really like to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into these sections. Tales of supernatural creatures are what most likely draws many people to learn more about cryptozoology. I myself do find a fascination in reading about these. These supernatural cryptids typically fall into the realm of cautionary tales, folklore, and local legend. So let's start with the classic one, the Wendigo. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this because I eventually do want to make a full video dedicated to the legend of the Wendigo. But to summarize, it falls under the category of folklore, as it was a tale from the Algonquin people that picked up traction in North America and Canada, and eventually the internet. There are several variations of this story, but the Wendigo is said to be an evil spirit that hunts us humans in order to satiate its appetite for flesh. Alternatively, it has the ability to possess an individual and turn them into a Wendigo. This causes them to partake in acts of cannibalism and participate in other acts of greed. Other versions of this legend may say that it's an action that leads to the possession. Either way, folklore serves as a warning to the people what may happen to those who participate in such evil actions. Many people call this a cryptid, as existence is debated because of the supernatural elements, and also lack of evidence. Now, I'm not completely dismissing the possibility, but just putting it in this category, the supernatural, because, well, it is supernatural. I'll get more into this in his own video. Until then, I'm gonna leave it right there. Two other cases of these supernatural cryptids are the Mothman and the Goatman. These are even more strict cases of the supernatural, as they are said to have benevolent and malevolent intent respectively. These fall under local legends and their respective locations of Point Pleasant, West Virginia for the Mothman, and Denton, Texas for the Goatman. But apparently he also appears in Maryland, Maine. This guy's all over the place. The thing that stands out to me about these two cases, and many other popular internet cryptids, pop culture cryptids, whatever you want to categorize them are, is that they are a singular entity, not a species like the Sasquatch or the above-mentioned Wendigo to an extent. Going back to cryptozoology being about hidden animals, the possibility of there only being one of a species left is not entirely impossible, but it is very unlikely. And in cases like the Goatman, where the disputed origin has some telling of a mad scientist, has gone completely off the rails of being explainable, or plausible, or realistic, whatever you want to call it. By all means, it is still technically a cryptid, but the tale surrounding it can be so incredibly convoluted that it could be something straight out of a science fiction book. Sorry for the Goatman rant, I just think it's a spawn of internet horror, and it's kind of generic, but that's not for me to decide. I bring it up alongside the Mothman because they are similar tales, but from different time periods. The Mothman, while just as mysterious, can be explained in some way that makes it more believable. Not saying the stories of its origin are believable, but the explanations riding off what it was do make sense. Once again, I'd like to make a deeper video on the Mothman, but to summarize, sightings of the creature arose around Point Pleasant area of a large creature with glowing eyes. Many reported it chasing witnesses, but none were ever directly harmed by it. I say directly because of an incident regarding the Silver Bridge collapse, where many witnesses attest they spotted the Mothman at the bridge days prior before the collapse. Many believe that it caused the tragedy, while others have said that it was a warning. While the tales of the cryptids are interesting, its existence has several possible explanations, one of which being that the sightings could have actually been of large owls, or even other creatures like hawks or cranes maybe. Which, if you think about it, it can make sense. A story is told about a large winged creature with glowing eyes. It is written in a local paper, as it is a popular story, and many others begin to see the Mothman. So one could chalk it up to many sightings of the owls, or the original encounter being an owl, and others making up stories to join in the local legend. Or you could even chalk it up to a classic case of mass hysteria. The supernatural element comes in when people begin to speculate about this being a benevolent creature that is trying to warn humanity of impending tragedies. Now, many animals have a seemingly sixth sense, like when your dog perks up and starts growling at the corner of your room, or when you try to swat that pesky annoying fly and it flies away before you can get it. So, in the case of the Silver Bridge, if it was an owl perched on the bridge, and it is about to collapse in a couple days, is it that unlikely that it would fly away after it felt some reverberations in the bridge or the trusses? I know I'm reaching here to explain it, I want to believe it, but I'm also trying to write it off as one of those supernatural cryptid elements that is not so friendly to the actual cryptozoology thing. This is not to mention the other stories surrounding the creature, like being a military experiment from the nearby facility, or the supposed disruption effect it would have on electronic devices in the area. Regardless, you get my point. If you're looking at cryptozoology as a science, giving creatures supernatural abilities, while fascinating, is not very credible to reality. Tall tales are interesting. They are cryptid creatures that can typically be explained by what we know now. While tall tales come close to the line of folklore, I make the difference in saying that tales of these creatures, they bear no supernatural or mystical type origins, unlike folklore. Like I said in my first little ramble, a good example of this is the Kraken, possibly being about giant squids, and with recent discoveries it does not seem that far-fetched. Most speculate that back in the old days, that giant squids would roam closer to the surface, and attack sailing ships thinking them to be large prey. But as technology has progressed more and more, the ships we have now, and even some submarines, have driven these creatures deeper into the ocean and made them harder to discover until recently. But what's more interesting is that there are more examples of this. Funnily enough, another water-based cryptid is the sea serpent. There's many different sea serpents, so I'm not going to say a specific one. Many believe that these large serpents were just sailors not understanding what they were seeing. A lot of the people will say that tales of sea serpents were attributed to the oarfish. I mean, look at this thing, and tell me a mid-century sailor wouldn't be scared. I know what it is, and it still gives me the creeps. A personal favorite of mine that is debatable if it would fall into this category or not, but I like it, so I'm putting it here, is the jackalope. Yeah, I've seen this one in person, not to brag or anything. But you know why? It's because it was made up and has literally been fabricated into reality. The jackalope was a cryptid of western United States of a jackrabbit with antlers or horns. While some will tell you this was inspired by tales of such sightings, one thing can be sure, and it's that the ones you do see are taxidermy, and they are made by taking antlers and pasting them onto a jackrabbit carcass. Yeah. Real interesting. It was used by many to draw the attention of travelers that were not from the region. Souvenirs of this creature are not uncommon, and because this was before the time of the internet, people blowing through town would often believe these to be legitimate and pay to see the creature and take pictures and stuff like that. Reading stuff like this makes me long to live in these days. Like, with how easily I'm entertained, I would love this kind of stuff. The thing is, because of this being a made-up creature, it also had to have a made-up origin story. So while some will try to explain it with scientific means like a genetic mutation in rabbits, others just go completely off the rails. One such story being that during a lightning storm, a rabbit and a pronghorn, or another type of deer in the area, would be trapped in a cave together. And for some reason, I'm not really sure why, but they would mate? So basically, cryptids that fall under this section have a source of legitimate origin, but are ultimately inflated for the sake of storytelling, or out of a genuine misunderstanding. Which is something I find interesting, and I hope you do too. Like I said, I think this to be my favorite section of the video. Cryptid creatures that are possibly still out there. These aren't like tall tale cryptids where it's a creature that is exaggerated in the heat of the moment. These are ones that have evidence to support their existence, which does not break the laws of reality, but have somehow remained undiscovered. Now, most people would not find these nearly as interesting as I do, so if you want to call it quits at this point, I understand. Before you go, consider subscribing to the channel. Like I said, I plan to make more videos about the topics I've previously talked about on this video. But anyways, back to the cryptids. A lot of the creatures that fall into this category tend to be supposed branches from species that we just haven't found yet. So an example of this would be the orang pendek, which is speculated to be a type of primate that resides on the island of Sumatra. There is lots of witness accounts throughout history to support the existence of these apes, and yet they are still not officially documented. Some say that they are more closely related to humans than other primates, but others will say that it's related to orangutans, if not an actual species of orangutan. Despite all these theories and evidence of some creatures of this description in the region, it is yet to be found, and that is why I find it so interesting. It sounds plausible, it's backed by a ton of evidence, and it has a logical reason for not being discovered. That reason being, it's in a remote location, in a rainforest, on an island. Yeah. Some more possible creatures that would fall under this category would be like the megalodon, a more mainstream example. While there is a lot of evidence of it previously existing, many still believe these giant sharks may be around, just hidden deep underwater. While there are almost no witnesses, no, scratch that, there are no witnesses to what is happening in the depths of the ocean, given the discovery of creatures like the giant squid, which was unknown to us. Who's to say a giant shark like the megalodon is not hidden down there as well? Additionally, there are cryptids that are debated whether they are extinct or not, such as the thylacine I mentioned. In cases like this, the creature was documented, had gone extinct, but despite it being documented, and the last one they had documented dying, there are still sightings of the creature reported, causing the debate of whether it exists, quote unquote, or not, because it should be extinct, but it might not be. You get the ramble. As we wrap up, I invite you to ponder the mysteries surrounding cryptozoology. While some creatures may reside in the realm of folklore and tall tales, others may very well be lurking in unexplored corners of our world. Whether you'd be drawn to the supernatural allure or fascinated by the scientific quest for hidden creatures, the study of cryptozoology continues to intrigue and inspire us to explore the unknown. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the study of hidden animals. If you've enjoyed diving into the world of cryptids, remember to subscribe and stay tuned for more exploration into the mysteries of cryptozoology and other such topics. Until next time, keep your eyes open for who knows what might be hiding in plain sight.